What's going on, everyone? Wanted to come to y'all with a bookshelf tour update, and I'm going to go through my shelves one by one and briefly talk about the books I have, as well as show them to you. So you see we have a Dragon Riders of Pern omnibus over here. We've got my Wizard of Oz hardcover set. I do mostly collect in hardcover, so that's just a thing. Neverending Story, Prydain Chronicles, Bright Star, the Legends and Lattes books that are out so far. Dark Souls: A Mask of Vindication, really didn't like this book. My Fable tie-ins, as well as Gilgamesh. So this shelf is basically, or this top shelf is for some of my shorter books, as far as like trim size. And then down here we have some of my favorite manga. We've got the complete Delicious and Dungeon set, as well as the complete edition of the Adventurer's Bible, and then all 8 volumes of Vampire Hunter D's manga. Then down here we have my, what was originally just Mexican fiction, now it's Spanish fiction, because we do have like some South American authors on here. But this is done because a very, very dear friend of mine, Bernice, who I love reading with, really got me into wanting to read more books from, Mexican culture specifically, and it's kind of expanding since then. So you can see some of my Spanish-based books, and I tried to, theme the shelf up a little bit. And then down here we have my very small horror collection, as well as a Nicol Bolas plushie, and then some candles down here. Continuing right along, this is what mostly turns into my sci-fi shelf, but I do have some other stuff here. I have some miscellaneous fiction, as well as some Japanese light novels that I really enjoy. Well, some of these I really enjoy, some of these I wasn't super big on, like Weathering with You I thought was kind of okay. Currently reading How to Win Her Heart on the Nth Try. My Brother's Husband, beautiful manga, absolutely made me cry. Pip-Boy there. Then we come down to the start of the sci-fi stuff, so another Pip-Boy, and we have my Dune collection. And I do have, aside from the Dune Encyclopedia, which I don't have, I do have a complete set of all the Dune books in hardcover. And you can see it finishes off down there. And then we have my Sun Eater books. And then we have some miscellaneous sci-fi down here. Moving right along, we have my next bookshelf, which starts with my Magic the Gathering stuff. So you can see my small collection of Magic the Gathering novels. And then as we come down here, we have my Tolkien and some other miscellaneous fiction and fantasy. This is a self-print bind-up of all the Bleach light novels that did not have an official English print, translation, so it's fan translations that I went ahead and did. And then we have my Harry Potter shelf, as well as the James Potter fan fictions, and The Girl on the Dock, which is part of that same kind of universe. My David Eddings, some Robert Newcomb, his Dark Materials, and then the Fantastic Beasts books. And then down here I've got Lord of Goblins plus the Blade itself. I do have the other 2 books in this trilogy coming in the mail. Continuing to move right along, over here we've got my Patrick Rothfuss stuff, as well as my current collection of Christopher Paolini. These are custom dust jackets that I had done just to make these books match the rest of them. Then we've got my Howard Andrew Jones Chronicles of Hanvar books, my Brian Lee Durfee 5 Warrior Angels books. I really wish The Lonesome Crown would get a hardcover release. I'm hoping one day, broken binding or something. And then we've got the Bloodsworn trilogy. Then coming on down here is one of my pride and joys. It's my Supernatural shelf. So we have the Men of Letters Bestiary, we've got the comics, some of the source books, all 17 of the tie-in novels. And then I put my Neil Gaiman stuff right over here because American Gods did inspire Supernatural. And then, of course, Angel Blade. And then we have my indie shelf. So got an indie poetry book over here, Archangel's Fall, which is really fun. The Book of Astea, which is incredible. Gunmetal Gods, which is incredible. Depths of Valnoth, which almost looks like it's part of the same series, but it's not. Manifest Destiny, some of my Daniel Green stuff. Yes, I do have 2 copies of A Witch's Sin. One's the pink spread edge edition, one is just the standard. And then the East 8 novelization. And then down here we've got like my Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarrow stuff, as well as a random copy of Gothakana, which I was given. Moving right along onto the next shelf. This is actually one of my favorites because I have my Witcher collection, and I do have like the comics as well as the novels. A lot of self-print stuff on this shelf, so I'll spend a little more time here. You can see I'm working on collecting the entire comic set as well. I do have Library Edition Volume 3 pre-order. That'll come in later this month. This is a self-print, which mostly contains stuff that Dark Horse can't print because they don't have access to it, like Matter of Conscience and The Witcher Kiddo. So, yeah, you can see I kind of got cheeky with how I titled it. Then we have like the Little Witcher children's comic collection. We've got the RPG development books. We've got the original 8 novels. Can't wait for the 9th one. And then I've got these 3 here, which are all fan translations of Russian and Polish only stories, which I had self-printed, which is really cool. And then I have a fanfic novelization of the second game that I had self-printed. Witcher 2 is my favorite of the Witcher games. We've got the Witcher Ronin paperback from the Kickstarter release. And then I have my Elric of Melniboné stuff. Then down here we have my George R.R. Martin shelf, which is an almost complete collection of his bibliography. I'm still missing Sand Kings, but I do have a space open for it at the very end over here. By the way, Fever Dream is my favorite of George Martin's books, and it might actually be my favorite book of all time. Really loved that. Down here we have my manga collection, so I do have all of Yu-Gi-Oh!, all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist, all of Yu-Gi-Oh! R, all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Millennium World, all of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. I'm missing 2 volumes of 5Ds, but then I have all of Zexal, and I only have 1 of Arc V. Then I've got Zombie Powder and my very incomplete Bleach collection. Some other stuff on the end there. My Dragon Ball collection, which I'm still missing the original Dragon Ball and several volumes of Super. That's alright, and I have some self-prints of Dragon Ball GT manga version, Solo Leveling, The Hellbound, more Solo Leveling, Mashal, Freyrin, which I really need to catch up on, Fire Force, which I really need to finish, the entire English run of Trinity Blood, Final Fantasy Lost Stranger, which I need to catch up on, and then Recast, which I really enjoyed, even though it is kind of weird. And now we're finishing up on my final bookshelf, which starts out with my complete R.A. Salvatore collection. Very proud of this. You can see I have literally all of his Legend of Drizzt and related works, and I have them in his reading order, so if things seem weird, that's why they're where they are. I did also put Elaine Cunningham's Starlight and Shadows trilogy in here, where it's been recommended to be read, relevant to the series, because it is dealing with the Underdark and the Drow Society, so it kind of felt thematically tied in. Then we have The War of the Spider Queen. We've got The Lady Penitent, which I hate only comes in these mass-market paperbacks, but it is what it is. I've got the comics that are part of the series there. Continuing right along, you see, again, I hate that this is only in mass-market paperback, but I got what is available. They literally didn't print a hardcover for it. So yeah, very much complete there. I can't wait for the new book that comes out later this year. And then we move into my Terry Goodkind collection. You see, I do have 2 copies of Wizard's First Rule. The original and then the reprints. I thought about getting the reprints covers for all the early books, but I don't know if I'm that fanatical. And then my Ageo replica from the TV series specifically, and his shorter novellas back there because they just look like crap displayed with their spines out. And again, this is sorted in recommended reading order, with the exception of these 3 novellas. These are not related to Sword of Truth, but all these Sword of Truth books are in their recommended reading order. Yes, that includes A Law of Nines. Then we come down here and we have the rest of that, plus some of his other miscellaneous works. Then we move into my Wheel of Time collection. Not in recommended reading order necessarily. I know, I really should be more uniform with how I organize. And then that comes down into my Sanders shelf. That is a fan print, a self-print of the White Sand novelization from the newsletter that I had done. So, no, it's not an edition you can buy. Dragonsteel Prime is just a custom dust jacket that I had made to put over because I really didn't like the way the book displayed. Same thing with the Way of Kings Prime. It's just a custom dust jacket over the official Dragonsteel edition of the book. And then we finish off down here with the rest of his bibliography. I don't have Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians because it's middle grade and I'm not sure I'd want it. But yeah, and then over here we have, like, you probably can't even see. There we go, Berserk and High School of the Dead. So that was it, my very, 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 very quick tour of my library, my home library. Hope you enjoyed.